Go ahead.
Hello. Today, Par, Sterling, and I are bringing you our Software Engineering 1 project, the first iteration, which is My Day. So we were trying to figure out what's the main problem for Baylor students on campus, and what we kind of decided was time management. Because a lot of times it's very hard to be good at time management. It takes a lot of time to get good at managing your time. And for new students, like especially in computer science and stuff like that, it's very difficult to stay on track in classes and everything like that. So we decided to make a calendar that can connect to Canvas.
Yeah, so this is our project vision that we wrote down, which is to empower students to make the most of their studies by automating their class planning and improving their time management through the use of already available and insightful data. So essentially, we want to help out students, specifically Baylor students, by making an app that can connect to Canvas and automatically import all their class and event information, as well as creating other events.
Great. And so now that we kind of had an idea of the problem we wanted to solve, we kind of had to formulate what our ideal solution would look like. So on the right side, you can see some of the actual requirements we devised from this, but we came up that an ideal solution would integrate with existing data, that data being Canvas. The Canvas API is very easy to access. There's a lot of libraries that make it easy and very functional for us to use. We wanted to allow students to schedule and plan events. A good application needs to allow students to have a high degree of granularity over the kind of events that they're scheduling, when they're scheduling them, when they want to get them done. And then react to students' activities, right? You can see that in complete events. We want students to be able to complete an event and for our application to learn from that to kind of further determine how long it's going to take a student to study, how long it's going to take a student to get different types of assignments done.
So essentially, whenever we were thinking about how we wanted to plan this first iteration, we came together and made a Gantt diagram, just showing essentially our tentative schedule for this much. And we mostly followed this to a degree. The presentation took a little longer than expected, but that's about right about how it was.
So right here we have each of the use cases that we're responsible for, and we're going to briefly talk about each. So for me, I had Connect Canvas, Create Account, and Delete Event. Connect Canvas is probably the most technically challenging of the three. We're interacting with a couple different actors, one being the Canvas Authentication Service, one being our own internal authentication service, which relates to Create Account. If we're going to be storing views and schedules and data for each of these users, we need to have that stored in some type of way, that being an account for each, which will obviously have an internal database for that. And then I'm also in charge of Delete Event, which if some scheduling change happens, some scheduling conflict, students need to have the ability to delete events, move events, etc.
Of my use cases that I'm responsible for, there's Edit Event, Set Free Time, and Complete Event. So edit event, essentially, the user needs to be able to change date and time information, and the system needs to be able to verify that that information is valid and not dates that don't exist. And they also need to be able to change event priority and other things about the event, like the description and so on and so forth. Set free time is something that the user can do that it'll show up on the calendar, which you can list dates that or days of the week that you have free time, and the system won't try to schedule things on those days. And you can note that it's weekly or not. And the last use case I have is Complete Event, which is not deleting the event, but it leaves the event on the calendar but marks it as completed, so it could have a check mark or just a display.
So my three use cases are view schedule, create event, and then get the event details. So for viewing the schedule, we have two modes for that. We have the default, which is the month mode, and it will take everything from Canvas and put it on the calendar itself, as well as any events that the user creates, and the free time as well. And then for creating the event, we take into account events that are already there, and we check to confirm that nothing is scheduled, and we warn the user if they're scheduling it within free time, saying hey, you wanted this time free, are you sure you want to put an event there? And then also get event details goes along with the viewing the schedule. so you can see the specific events up close. We also have a weekly view for the schedule. And then through those you can get, through the create event, you can get, no, through the get event details, you can get to the edit event, you can get to deleting the event, completing the event, etc.
Yeah, so this is our domain model that we came up with, and it's just based off of the different objects that we, or like things, the main objects that we saw in our requirements and use cases. So we have the main ones, the user, and that interacts with a lot of different of the other things in there.
Yep, and because we're interacting with something like Canvas, we obviously need to include that in our domain model. Canvas is going to be where we're importing a lot of our events so that students don't have to have a lot of overhead in creating their schedule. We want to grab events that are already readily available and present that to them. Furthermore, we have event type and priority, so we have some way of classifying these events in the calendar, so you can see calendar stores events. And calendars also contain free time, because we want to make sure that if we can schedule things outside of times that students would like them scheduled, we want to make sure to prioritize that time.
So here are some of the wireframes we made. We have our create account page, which just has you like enter your email, enter your username. We used Dr. Cherney as our example. Say he wanted a calendar of his software class. So he has a specific password to him. You can create an account, or you can log in if you already have an account. This is our week view. It has whatever was on Canvas already, and you have the ability to set your free time, add an event, and you can change your view between month view and week view. These two is our login page, which is pretty basic. And we have our event details page, which is what you would select from the calendar. And so we have the event name, we have the event priority, so just so you know, like, hey, I really need to get this done. You have the date and the time, and you have the description for it. And you can also edit your event, delete your event, go back to your calendar, or you can complete your event.
Great, so to kind of wrap things up, we want to take you guys and let you see our website or issue tracking. So we're hosting everything in Git. So if I migrate over here, you can actually follow our progress here. As you see, we have iteration 1 with our PDF document link. That PDF document link is going to have everything not included in the presentation, all the system sequence diagrams, all the requirements, all the fully used use cases, etc. You can actually track our progress. So as this website's pulling from our Git, it tracks when we finish these deliverables. So you'll see a slash through when we're completing things, and if you check back during iteration 2, you'll actually see us completing those. Furthermore, you can get to our actual Git and perhaps more importantly for you guys, our issue tracking page. So if you have any suggestions, any things you'd like to see implemented, things you'd like to see changed, feel free to come here, pose those questions, and we'll definitely take a look. But other than that, if you guys have any questions, we'd love to answer them now, or anything you'd like to see addressed. How's it going?
How did you learn how to connect to Canvas?
So I've done quite a bit of web development, and just through web development, I've interacted with a lot of different web APIs, and Canvas just presents us with a RESTful API that we can log into using a Java OAuth 2 library. It's a pretty simple connection, and it's just making requests to it.
Awesome.
Thanks for the question.
You're welcome.
Thank you.